Pro. I graduated from PNCA in 2018, although I'm one of those weird off, what do they call it again when you do it like a
Sequence?
semester earlier? Off sequence, thank you. And I am a great admirer of the two artists that are going to be talking to each other today. Irene Ramirez, who graduated in 2019, right, Irene? With a B.F.A in communication design, and Steph Littlebird Fogel, who graduated in 2015 with, you were general fine arts, but you focused on painting and printmaking, is that right?
Yeah, those are my two faves.
You did a little bit of everything, if I recall correctly.
I tried.
Yeah. And so Steph was our last subject, but she's going to be asking Irene questions, and we're super excited to have Irene because these talks haven't really focused on a designer yet, and I feel like sometimes designers get a little bit less love than they should. Not that we don't love them, but I think a lot of attention sometimes goes towards fine arts and less towards design arts, and I think that those things are equally important. And if you haven't participated in one of these before, this is the Alumni Connection, and we are hosting, organizing, helping with a series of talks between two recent alumni. And we wanted to kind of focus on people that have graduated recently because they often don't get very much or as much attention. So Steph and Irene have had a chance to talk a little bit before this, and I think they already know what they're gonna talk about. And if you two would like to just go ahead, I will mute my microphone and will give you the floor.
Thank you, Ivy. I was going to say, Irene, do you want to we'll just do like brief introductions, then we can deep dive into it more here in a second. If you want to go first, and I'll introduce myself.
Awesome. I'm Irene Ramirez, graphic designer, 2019 PNCA. I really appreciate you guys being here and listening to this interview story. I'm very grateful to have been chosen from my class, at least. I'm not sure that, there's a lot of people to choose from, I'm sure, but I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with Steph and to make friends. And, this is in context of the pandemic lifestyle. So you five are literally the only people I've met in the last year, which makes it even more special. So I want to say thank you for having us. Stephanie, thank you so much for all your support so far. And I'm so glad we've made fast friends. If anything, this has already brought me closer to my community. So I really appreciate this time. So thank you.
Yeah, same. I was like, oh man, if anything comes from this, it's just like strengthening the networks that we have at PNCA. And I think that's really cool. I'm like, Ivy, you're on my radar now. So it's like one of those things where you can make connections so fast. And because we're also passionate about the same stuff, like they're good connections. So yeah, I'm Steph Littlebird, and I was the artist from last month, and now I'll be interviewing Irene. I'm so stoked because as soon as my eyeballs laid themselves upon Irene's work, I was like, oh yeah. I'm such a nerd for sign painting and just those techniques that go along with the analog traditions, and I just think that Irene is such a strong representative of those practices. So I'm stoked about that. And then also on top of it, we just had like amazing vibes immediately upon meeting one another. So it was like, boom, this is going to be a great conversation no matter what. So anyway, but as Ivy mentioned, I'm a graduate from the B.F.A program, and I went there initially for painting and then fell in love with printmaking, but also dabbled a little bit in the illustration department and sculpture, and just really tried everything because I love art generally. So anyway, but yeah, so that's enough about me for now. I was going to say, Irene, do you want to share a little bit about yourself first, and then we could like bring in the pictures of your work and just maybe talk about like where you're from and like what brought you to PNCA, like how did you make it here?
Yeah, totally. Let's see. I feel like we can start with a little bit of the slideshow, just, well, at least I can give a little example of the type of work I do for work 40 hours a week. I'm lucky enough to work for New Seasons Market. I put this one in there because I made it recently and I thought it was so fun. I'm a chalk artist for New Seasons Market. I get to create some of the artwork for 4 of our Portland Metro stores, that being Hawthorne, the Concordia store, our Williams store, and our Grant Park store. And I don't think that a lot of people in our local community know that this company still has working artists that get to make stuff with pens and paint. And I know that Trader Joe's also still supports their local artists, but it is a dying breed at this point. I originally started back in 2008 making chalk work for Whole Foods Market. And what brought me to PNCA, I actually looked at it back in 2001 because I wanted to be a fine arts painter. And I ended up graduating from there 18 years later. So it was a really long story, but I do want to give an example of what I do for work, which is something like this. The next example, because I also do freelance. So I feel like as an artist, we're just constantly doing different types of work. I wanted to include this because this is a package design that New Seasons let its artists make this last year. We each got to just design a chocolate bar, which was really fun. So the company does let us do other things. I was also able to help on the design production team digitally this last year, which was really a treat. So it's kind of a jack of all trades. We do have a sign art squad. So there's 5 of us that do the chalk art for the stores, but we work within the marketing department of the whole company. So we're just a subset. I wanted to include the next slide just to give an example of some of the stuff that I make on the side, freelancing. This is the Hug Salon on Gleason. I love this salon. Clearly walk-ins might not be totally welcome right now, but I wanted to give an example of that. My next example, Lauren, thank you, sorry, is a digital illustration I got to do this last year. In 2019, actually, which I loved. It was a process. I got to work with Durant Farms in Dayton, Oregon for their Olive Mill Festival. But it was really fun to create this poster. So this is also something that like I've made freelance work outside of my job. I don't know if I answered your question. Sorry.
You definitely did. No, this is beautiful. So, you said something about 2001. So, okay, you moved. It says you moved from Portland or from Monterey. Is that right?
Yeah, Monterey, California. I'm
And
from Carmel, but everyone knows
wow.
where Monterey is because the aquarium. And yeah, I totally fell in love with a girl and moved here like a crazy person. And I originally thought I might go to the Cornish College of Arts in Seattle because my art mentor, Carrie Crockett, back home, encouraged me to do so. I looked at both of those things, and because I wasn't sure where I wanted to go, I was going to PCC at the time to fill my prereqs, and I was working at Nature's Northwest. I don't know if you guys remember the hippie grocer, the original Nature's, as a cashier. So I was in natural foods this entire time, especially while I was in school because I had to have a job. And really that's kind of where I got started with the natural food part of my career. And it wasn't until 2008 when Whole Foods Market This is a long story, but Nature's got bought out by Wild Oats. Do you guys all remember Wild Oats? Who then got bought out by Whole Foods. When they took over in 2008, they came in and assessed everyone. And it was funny because I used to do price integrity for the store. I was in charge of pricing. My boss, who later became my boss, came in, assessed everyone, looked at me, walked into my office and said, "You're a sign maker." And I was like, "No, I'm not a sign maker." Because I did it outside of work. He could tell that I was an artist. And he was like, "No, there's this position, you should go for it." And I told him no a lot. And he aggressively was like, "No, I see this for you." And thank God he pushed me to apply for that position. So then when I got that position, I was so lucky to learn the skills of sign making, because the company was nice enough to give us work doing that and training us. And that was the first time I was introduced to the Adobe suite, graphic design. I didn't do graphic design before that. And originally you had to have a degree in graphic design to be a sign maker for them, but they let me in anyways because I could draw. And then they said, "We'll train you." And then that's where I then started. I was introduced to graphic design, and then I was like, "I love this. This is awesome." And then it wasn't until Amazon bought out Whole Foods. Do you guys remember that? Oh, in 2016, they bought out Whole Foods, and they kind of eliminated all the marketing positions for the whole company. So at that point, we're 7 years in the game, and everyone got laid off. So then it was just this real like, oh, what are we gonna do? And since I had already started learning about graphic design, I was like, I want to know I want to know more. And I always wanted to go to PNCA. So I thought, what the hell? This is the time to go back to school, even though everyone was like, "You're so old, you can't go back to school." I was like, whatever. And I'm glad it turned out that way, really. So that's kind of where, I know it's a long story, I'm sorry, but
You're here.
kind
This
of
is your
interesting.
entire hour, darling. No story is too
Thanks.
long. Don't worry.
I know it's all
Can
like
you
jumbled
talk?
in my head.
That's okay. I get the same way, especially when I'm talking about myself. I'm like, oh my God, there's so many connections. But can you talk more about your training in the sign painting part of it? Like, did they have a program or did you have a mentor? Like, who taught you those techniques?
Well, originally they had an artist in each store. So we were all in charge of our own store. And it was kind of nice because you got to connect with other artists. And a lot of times we would connect if they did store openings. Store openings a lot like theater. You know, you have all these teams that are working together to make this thing go up, this production happen. And you basically would work day and night to create all the signage in the store. So those were the times where we got to meet each other and work together and share tools of the trade and tricks of the trade. And I felt like I was usually so insular with that position, but having a team, I mean, that's the best way to learn. And now that we have this team, I feel like I had been doing that job for so many years, and then I meet someone and they're like, "Hey, have you ever tried this?" And you're just like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I've been doing this for 10 years and you just taught me something that could have saved me years of my life." So working with other artists is really important. And yes, and they used to give us some trainings. They would have artists come in to do some calligraphy work. So, because a lot of it's lettering. And I got really interested in just practicing that all the time.
Yeah, your lettering work I'm a calligrapher. I grew up doing that. And
Oh, nice.
I know how difficult it is to do like on paper, let alone like with, paint or something on an actual large scale canvas. Like that's a whole different ballgame, and then make everything look right, So there's an immense amount of skill that goes into that translation. And so it's obvious based on your work. When you're working now for your job, do you work in a team of artists still?
Well, we've all been working from home since last year, which has been a blessing in a lot of ways. And so privileged to be able to have a workspace. I actually wish I could have had this from my trailer. I have a 1967 trailer that I work out of, but I couldn't get the internet to connect, which was horrible. But that's where I work. It's in my backyard. I set up this whole studio for myself, which is really nice. But no, we have a lot of Zoom calls, but we haven't been able to be together at all.
So do you
weird.
design online and then you go into like actually paint it live once you've like proposed a design? How does it work? How does that process go?
We definitely sketch. So there's probably two ways to go about it. In the marketing department, you have collateral or assets. Like if they're doing a promotion, they're like, okay, this is what we're pushing. These are our assets. You guys decide how you want to communicate that to the public. And sometimes they give us a template, like we need you all to be cohesive in your designs together so that the brand is the same at all stores. But like the example of the values board, the one with the illustrations and the cartoons, they just told me these are our values, and how can you they let me do whatever I wanted. So I was like, oh, I'll create a story, because I felt like that was a better way to share the values instead of making a list or making it all about type. I feel, and especially because it's in a hallway where the employees will go back and forth and see this thing all the time. I just wanted to make it kind of fun and full of creatures.
It is, no, it also has like the vibe and style of a particular era of animation, which I love. How long did it take you to do this piece?
Like a week.
Oh my gosh.
It took, but designing, like trying to decide like who's gonna do what. My little cartoon was took a lot of sketches, and I don't think I ran it by my boss first. I think I just said, I'm gonna try something. I've clearly put myself in it. I was just like, this is a world I'd rather live in right now, considering everything that's going on.
So
it was hard for me to want to put a bunch of people.
Oh yeah. Well, I was gonna ask you about that because you have like almost like a vintage style, you know, and wondered like where those influences come from. Like, were you always influenced by those things, or like have you studied those styles? Like, how do you come to make art that looks like so referential to this time? It's amazing.
That's a good question. I definitely have a lot of art books that I look through. I love cartoon illustration. I did grow up with Norman Rockwell books. I love his expressions in his illustrations, and how you could get so much even from not knowing. I mean, you could read the whole thing. So I think I was always influenced just by like animation of things. But yeah, so many influences. Like, no.
I was gonna say, do you have other things that influence you besides animation? Are there any particular like movements, or I mean, it could be anything. It doesn't even have to be visual art. Is there other stuff that inspires you?
I know my brain is like stuck right now. I'm definitely I'm definitely inspired by Adele Rodriguez, Posada, Jose Guadalupe Posada. I remember when I was first like, oh, okay, I'm making signs. How important is this? It's not that I felt, like it wasn't great. And so looking up representation of he was a Mexican political lithographer. And, a lot of people are like, oh, you don't make art because it's production art. And he had such a huge catalog of work where I just felt like he was just cranking stuff out, and it's amazing, and it's part of the culture, and it's really important. And I'm sure at the time, I don't know, he was a pretty big deal, but people weren't looking at cartoon art or political illustrations as fine art, or it wasn't in a gallery. So I felt really inspired by just being like, okay, just make stuff. It's okay if it's not perfect or it's not in a gallery. And I feel super lucky and grateful that I had shepherds and mentors and even people that saw something in me when I didn't see it and were saying, no, you should do this. It's I know you want the security of like a job, but this is in you, so keep going. And I feel like as artists, we don't, it helps to have mentors a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like this is super important to meet other artists and to build connections. Every job I got was because of someone that I worked with, or I mean, the networking is so important. That's why my advice to any student is just like, don't be a jerk. Like, be open, be willing to work. Try not to be so in your head, and just try to collaborate with people. You will get further, and you'll learn so much more from being open to knowing that you don't know everything.
True. Yeah, I was gonna say, do you have any, I guess, when I think about the gaps from my education to the real world, I feel like it's really hard to articulate to artists like how to be successful, because there are so many different tracks. But do you have any like advice or anything that's worked for you that you think like has gotten you to this point that you're able to work in the thing, do the thing that you like to do?
Yeah, definitely. It's been a hustle. Whenever I talk to younger people, they have these like grandiose ideas of like, I'm going to be an artist and that's all I'll do. And I'm like, man, I worked 3 to 4 jobs for years because I knew myself and I knew that I had to have a sense of security before I could be creative. Like if I'm stressed out about money or paying my bills, there's no way I could be playful. So I knew for myself that I had to do what everybody else was doing plus more. So it's like I had to have a stable job and then just keep doing stuff outside of that. And even though I didn't know it, that hugely played a part into what I get to do now, because someone said, hey, you've been doing this outside of your job for years. Like, let's just make this part of your job. And it's like, okay, you're right. The other thing I would say for students, especially in graphic design, the one thing I did learn the hard way maybe was I hope that our professors could teach us more about contracts. I think that we didn't talk about contracts, and I won't do that again. I've gotten into some really interesting situations with design work, especially. I feel like as a painter and an artist, that way, I'm physically working in front of them sometimes. They can't say no to me, I guess, because I'm right there. I'm like, okay, I'm done, you can pay me. But in the design world where everything's digital, sometimes it's hard to get your money. So I was surprised by, oh, that's weird. There's like a divide, like these people. It was a different experience money wise. If I wasn't doing work for like a company itself, when it was freelance, hey, can you help me create this book cover or whatever? And then you do all this work with someone, and if you don't have a contract and then their book deal falls out, they don't have any money to pay you, or you know what I mean? So I wish that in school they would have gone over that a lot more. I feel like the business of art was very different than art school or the program itself, and we could use some more of that.
Yeah, the sort of application of all of the things that we're taught and like how that actually plays out in real life is not as smooth or as linear as you think it will be. Like in my experience, particularly with design jobs, people want you to do all of the work up front and then you'll get paid. And that's, I mean, it's like kind of difficult, especially when they're like lengthier design projects or something like that, where you're giving so much of your time to a client to not have them pay you at the end of it or whatever is like, what the heck? I just wasted all this time. So yeah. And
Yeah.
it's hard. It's hard to know how to protect yourself as an artist.
Yeah. And because you're by yourself, I think that's why there's not a threat to them. They're like, oh, what's this person going to come after me?
Yeah.
Which actually I definitely leveraged the school a couple times to be like, well, let me contact some people from the administration of my school. And then it was like, oh, and I was like, yeah, no. The other advice I would have, which I didn't do until my senior year, was to take illustration classes because I was in the design program and they were so different from the illustration community or group at school. And when I did get in there, because there's so much image making and they're just pumping it out in there, and in design, we're doing all this layout and type and there's different treatments. But it was once I got into the illustration department, I was like, oh man, I should have been doing both the whole time. And as a student, you're so tired, you're just trying to get through your program anyways. But I got a lot out of that, like a lot more than I would have expected. So I kind of wish I could have told my younger self, like, take more of those classes with Zach.
Oh my God, Zach is like a freaking, man, he's a machine. Yeah, yep, exactly. I think though, it speaks, what you're saying speaks to me in a way because the reason why I was in GFA was that I realized that artists were kind of like, we had to be really dynamic in order to get jobs. Like I can tell based on your portfolio that you do analog and digital work, and you have to be adaptive because different clients want different stuff. And so that's the one limitation I think of traditional like art education as it stands right now, is that it isn't cross-pollinated enough.
Yeah.
And that crossover is actually what makes you stronger as an artist, because then you can think like a designer and a fine artist, or think like a sign painter and a designer.
Exactly. And I also think that when you're say you're in a job, you're working in tandem with copywriters and illustrators and designers, you understand more of what it takes for them to do their job. So there's this mutual understanding of what everyone's doing, instead of this, can you just create this, image, and aren't you having fun? Isn't it easy? And it's like, no, these people suffer to make this work for you. And I think that's also important, of learning what it takes to make something so that you know what you're asking for.
Totally.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I don't know if
wow.
that answered the question.
No, I think that we could have a whole like 4-hour long conversation about the way that contemporary artists really have to live in the world compared to the education that we're given, and sort of the technology and knowledge gaps that are sort of happening in that experience comparatively to the real world.
Yeah, and like you do all kinds of stuff. I mean, you have to be a bit of a Renaissance person to say, yeah, sure, I can do your copywriting and I do your illustration.
Why
And
not?
I'll do your graphic design. Yeah. Which I feel really grateful to have a background in kind of both.
Yeah, it makes you more dangerous as the creative, right? Like instead of, I love the word artist, but I also like the word creative because I feel like it more encompasses what much of us professional makers are, which is like, we just have to be able to do a lot of different stuff, and that way we can get the job and survive. So
yeah.
What are you working on right now? I wanted to like talk a little bit about your personal work, and like both of us I think are passionate in our politics, and like, how do you express yourself outside of the confines of your job? Like what do you like to do to release your creativity?
Oh, like I said, I've been doing a lot of yard work, to be honest, outside of working. I've been finding that, especially this last year, I mean, this has been so difficult. The pandemic, the lockdown. In 2015, I got diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder. So I'm like I was already kind of a bubble kid. So then when this happened, I had to be even more careful, and it's hard. I also normally would go back home to California every 4 to 6 months to be with my family. So not being with my friends or my family and having to be really careful, like even more careful than most people, which is hard. Luckily, my partner's here with me. We go on walks every day just to keep the mental together and to be a support for like other friends of mine and family members that are having a hard time. I feel like some people, I have a group of friends that are all doing really well during this time. Like their things are great. They're making more money. I mean, and then I have friends that are just falling off. And people have to remember that everybody's in a different place. So we just need to be more gentle with each other and to take more time for ourselves. And I definitely noticed that once the pandemic hit, having 3 to 4 jobs all the time is sometimes necessary, but I definitely, not until I was forced to kind of slow down, that I realized like, oh, this is too much. Like, it's okay to just try to make it every month or whatever, instead of trying to hustle so much, because it's pretty exhausting. And then not being able to see people or communicate to them in person is not my favorite thing. I mean, the Zoom thing is weird. I don't ever talk to someone and see myself. This is abnormal. So I feel like after working 40 hours a week, I'm trying to spend more time with my partner and try to be there for my family. Just basic self-care stuff is what I'm working on right now. But in terms of work, I am making some labels for someone who's got a business, and I do make some other signage for a couple small businesses, which I am really excited about, but nothing major.
Well, I like what you said, though. I think that what you had said before about the hustle and like that mentality that you have to kind of be in as an artist if you want to, build a career for yourself, is like sometimes you are working 4 jobs and it just is what it is, but that in a way the pandemic has forced everyone to slow down, and whether it's been good or bad, like I think what you just described, it reminds me of a class that I took with Emily Ginsberg where she talked about the art of the everyday, and the idea of like creating art within your own day, which is like your walks with your partner, and like that to me is art, and that's really beautiful. So I'm glad that you're able to make meaning in this time, which is extremely stressful already. So,
and I think the obsession with the garden is because we're home all the time. So we're like, we got to make this spot really good because we're in it all day long. And gardening is really zen. Definitely always brings me back to the earth and to getting dirty and to making something beautiful with your own 2 hands. And it always makes me feel better. So I've been doing a lot of that.
That's great. Well, yeah, and then it pays off in the end, right? Because the more that you tend to your garden, the more beautiful it is. And if you have any fruits and foods in it, then it's even better.
Yeah, and when this is all over, we're going to have a massive party.
Agreed. I would love that. That would be awesome. I was gonna say, as it was mentioned before, it was like we need to do these in person and do some sort of meeting at PNCA eventually with everyone who got to do the speaking parts, because it would be fun to connect with everybody in person. And this experience has made me realize, like you said, the whole thing you just said about how nobody looks at themselves while they're talking to someone. It's so weird to like be on screen with another person, but then see yourself. Like no one's looking in a mirror while they're talking to their friend,
Yeah. And the energetic aspect of being with somebody else. Like, this was kind of weird about this. Stephanie, I haven't met you yet, but we're fast friends and I cannot wait to see you.
I know, right?
Yeah. And I'm excited for Melanie Stevens, who's the next artist that I will be interviewing, because I also like I I saw her at school all the time, but I never really got this opportunity to dig in and get to learn what they're doing. So stay tuned. More artists to come.
Well, I was gonna say, I think we went over all of my questions that I had for you, and we're getting a little bit towards the end of the hour, but I didn't know if you wanted to talk about anything else in particular before we open it up for questions.
I just wanted to say thank you again for reaching out to do this. I was really I wasn't sure about it when it first was presented to me, mainly because I don't feel super comfortable talking to a bunch of people I don't know. But within this process, I feel closer to a community. So whatever the intention was to start this, it's working. So I want to say thank you. I don't know if I explained my work that well, but you can see it online. And reach out with any questions or comments or concerns. I do wonder where Paige is. Oh, sorry, I think it's just you and me. It looks nice.
I know, it does look very nice.
Oh, it's Honduras.
You're in Honduras?
Yeah, Utila.
Oh, mira qué bonita. Nice.
Pues está bien, muy bienvenida. Venga, cuando quiere.
All right.
Good. Well, I want to say I love when you talk about the importance of maintaining friendship and things. I remember that was one of the things that Manuel Izquierdo told me early on, that, just is how important those friendships are. And just, watched him through his life. And here, Oregon is partnered with Costa Rica, and there's been changes. To know the Costa Rican artists, women artists especially, and they have such a strong program. They exhibit together in various places and various themes, and they have a saying that's more culture, less violence. So that's what I was encouraged by what you were. Yeah. And you're right, this is a great way to have that community. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and even seeing how much our city has changed, we're gonna need more artists to bring back the culture and the beauty, and to get in there. I think it's gonna be integral in building back something we can all be proud of.
Irene, do you have any ideas about that? About what you might like to see or contribute to in building more culture and community together?
It's hard because I was always food is clearly my first love. I also think I got into what I'm into because food is the fastest way to my heart. It's hard for me to think of digital, in terms of like bringing a community of people together through organizing something over the computer seems daunting to me. So I'm glad that you guys do have a base network. Ooh, I see some signs. And I can't say that I have any great ideas, but for me, I always like to think to start small, start locals, start here. So even knowing Steph and knowing what they can do, and I mean, just making these connections is a big deal to me, actually. And people I've seen you on the street. I just haven't been able to talk to you. So it's hard to reach out also during this time. I understand. And having gone to art school, I already know how awkward a lot of our students can be, and shy maybe too. So I'm curious to see what that looks like. But I think organizing people, even if it's just friends, when you have a community of artist friends and you're like, oh, hey, this person wants a mural, let's like do it. Just being open to collaboration and networking. And I love passing off work too. Like if somebody's like, hey, can you do this? I'm like, no, but I know who can. I think that's important for
Yeah.
us to
Yes,
create a
it's very
community.
important. Oh. Hi, sorry I'm late to the meeting. Oh, am I on mute?
You're good.
So Irene, I was trapped in another thing because the pre-vinyl ads that I've been working with, these young sign painting women from around the world, also lined up this internet thing with the alphabet letterette people out of Berlin. So I'm trying to like do all these multiple things and I'm getting confused. I'm making mistakes. I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time, you know. But I really wanted to meet you. I wanted to hear what you had to say about your work because you're working with letter forms, and I've even seen some of your work, not realizing it, at New Seasons. And I've been doing that for the last 40 years. And you're absolutely on it with networking and, you know, knowing where to send other work that you don't have time for. And you know what we did as Letterheads International for many years, and like started in the 90s, we just started an email list. So if you start your own email list and you know who's on there, and it's all people that are related to your craft, your skill base of what you like doing with your art, then you can connect with them or put out little messages or have a little potluck in your backyard, whatever. And I want you to know that you can call or contact me at any time. I'd love to share more with you.
Yeah, I'd love to talk more.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to interrupt the whole conversation, whatever, let it continue on.
No, and yeah.
I'm
I'm
sorry,
sure
I
we'll
don't want to
find-
interrupt. You go ahead. I
Find a
have a
way
question
to-
when you're ready.
Find a way to, it says Remedio Pop. No, okay.
Remedios.
That's me. I'm
Remedios?
Remedios.
Oh, okay. We'll connect after, I'm sure. Maybe Michelle.
Yeah, I guess I
Okay.
could put something.
Thank
in
you
a
so
chat
much
you.
for introducing yourself. I'm really excited to talk to you.
I was just
I will
thinking about.
definitely-
I was thinking I was going to send Remedios this recording because I was like, I know she would love to talk to Irene. So I'm glad you popped in.
Yeah, I'd like to hear the rest of it too. That'd be great. Send it. Oops.
So I think, I learned, probably went through most of my life pretty oblivious to sign painting, especially sign painting in grocery stores. And it wasn't until my next door neighbor worked as a sign painter for Trader Joe's that I even learned about it. And it's maybe, 10 years ago or something like that. But it's so fascinating to me. And I wonder, like so many just things about it, things that like they brighten our days, but we don't necessarily pay that much attention to them. So how do we notice more? Or yeah, I don't know.
You know, it's funny. You do notice it. I really like, it's hard for me to be the front person here. I'm so used to the mystique of making things and people not knowing who made them. So we've already established, I think that's why in terms of marketing, these companies have realized that the digital is a little oversaturated, that we can even see as a customer walks through the store, they kind of glare over things because they're so used to seeing so much all the time that you can see them just tune into something that's handmade. They will go straight for it and look at it and go, that's funny. Or, you can see the joy that it does bring people.
Good.
And I really love that. It's what excites me about it. And I love putting up a sign and just standing there and watching it happen and be right next to it. And these people don't know if it's real, or also people think it's printed.
Yeah,
a lot of times.
I'm sure.
So I think we should do a better job telling the customers that real people make these things.
Well, I think actually people would like to know that. I don't know.
I think that's part of the candy bar experience for New Seasons, like having us create a candy bar saying, hey, these are real artists in our stores. So that maybe helped. But yeah it's been, it tickles me. I just like it so much.
And then what happens with something like, here, I'll share it again. The large, your large banner piece, what happens with something like this when it comes down? Or what is the length, how long does something like this stay up? And what happens after? Do you get it afterwards?
No, and we erase everything. We want the chalkboard. Everything's so ephemeral, and we're so, at least in my team, we're like, ooh, that's a nice board. But this one in particular, it's a values board, so it will stay in the store for, it's probably evergreen. It will stay there for a long time, but a lot of the signs that you see within the store telling you, you know, these mushrooms are fancy, local, wild, whatever, those, there's the turnaround. And that's kind of the fun of it. I feel like for me, it feels less serious. It's easier to have a lot of fun with it because I'm like, oh, we'll erase it later. It's easier to feel like I can make a mistake. I don't have to feel so tied to perfectionism. I can play more. So it's funny because when I tell people that, it really bothers them. But it's really ephemeral. It just is meant to last for the season and then it's over. My partner is on a little bit of a campaign of trying to keep everything, which is really cute. But no, yeah, we burn through these boards pretty quickly. I have had the experience of someone buying it off the wall though, which was really a nice thing to happen. Some people do like it enough that they're like, hey, we also have people steal it, which happens, but that's a high compliment.
Do you ever work on things in the store when people are there, when customers are there, or is it only?
Yeah, we used to originally before 2019, most artists worked in the stores. So I would work in the store all day long. And it wasn't until 2019 that they changed to that. So yeah, we would be in the stores, but usually we'd be in a back room. So we'd make, because you have to make a mess, you know, you're making a mess and then you go out, put it out, stand there and watch them. I would
be so excited if I came to the parking lot and I saw you out there working and I knew that was going to be going in the store later.
Yeah, when I used to do floor art, when you would have to write on the floor, people would watch us do it. It's a little nerve-wracking, but when, you know, calligraphy, you just get in the groove and try to have people not walk on it. But yeah, not so much right now.
Those colors are so intense. Do you have a special formula, or how do you get those bright colors?
I meant to bring the pen. We have these liquid chalk pens. Oh. So it's really just, it reminds me of acrylic paint in a pen form container. And after so many years of practice, we've all learned how to take them apart, the pens, and then mix color. So there's a lot of ways you can go about doing it. I like to do the primer. So if I do a primer base of white, and then I put color on top of that, the opacity is higher. So that's how for my boards, they are a little brighter because it takes a little more time to put in the primer base. But yeah, we can mix paints.
Cool.
Any other questions?
I like what you said, Emily Ginsberg said about the art in the everyday, you know, and as you're talking about that, it seems so relevant to just the way you are.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I feel like that's really important. I didn't bring any of this into food, but I feel like we all look at food like such a chore, and it goes in your body and it's energetic, and it always baffled me how rushed people get with their food. And I don't know, I feel like even if we just looked at that, like I'm making myself art I can eat, you know, or I'm making this for this person, just in the mundane, just trying to find the joy or the beauty in what you're doing at this moment is really important. So yeah, my heroes are the unsung heroes of our daily lives.
It is kind of nice, you know, being in the sign painting world. And I also do sign painting at the Oregon Country Fair for many years. And it's like, and there again, it's the ephemeral thing. And then, yeah, sometimes they get stolen. And we're always like going, oh, well, I guess that was pretty popular, you know. But yeah, the thing is that I just felt like even in my early days as a signs painter on the streets in the 70s, it's like we're the decorating committee. And it's really fun to be part of the decorating committee of a city. And you actually are putting public art out there, and you actually are entertaining the public and bringing more joy and color and beauty into the community. And it is appreciated. And when people see it, they can tell it's hand painted. It's like real humans. And it's like the human powerness and part of our empowerment as humans again, that I think is really awesome. And I think that's one reason why we're seeing an uptick in interest in sign painting and those kinds of handcrafted arts again. So yahoo to you. I'm very happy to see what you're doing, and it's great.
Oh, thank you so much. And ditto. It's so nice to meet, there's not a lot of sign painters, or I haven't come across a lot of them.
Yeah.
So
I happen to know a lot of them, and I'll introduce them to you in the very near future, as soon as you'd like. Actually, there's a lot of us out here. There's a couple dozen really strong sign painters in the Portland area.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't mean to say there wasn't a lot of them. I don't get to meet a lot of them. So I'm super excited to
a lot of us don't, because we're in our studios, we're doing our work, we're getting our work done, then we're going home, we got to eat, we're exhausted. It's like there's only so much time. And so when you get some time, let me know.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk more. So thank you so much.
You bet.
Irene, I want to ask you a question about your home environment. Are there really cool signs like on your spice jars and your canisters and things, or is it kind of like that thing about the plumber's toilet is always leaking? Like, does any of this spill out just in your environment?
Oh, I wanted to see if I could. No, I don't have a lot of, actually I have more fine art and photography in my house. Like I said, I mean, my studio has leftover stuff that we have. It's funny because I guess when you do it, you're like, okay, I'm going to the house. I don't want, that's why I always think like, it's funny that my partner is like, this is awesome, we should have a whole wall of this. And I'm just like, no, it's okay. Like, I see this all day at work. But there is an appreciation for it. But no, I don't have a ton of, I don't have a ton of it, but I do have some weird signs in my backyard. Just random leftover signs from the store that I seem to be collecting, but it's mostly for the board.
So, Lauren, should we wrap this up, or we're kind of running out of a little bit of time? Yeah. All right. Well, so I just wanted to say thank you so much, Irene and Steph. And if you came into this late, we recorded this, so you're going to be able to access it on the PNC website, perhaps not instantly, but relatively soon. And I'm really happy that, Irene, that this is even a small networking opportunity for you, because that's really one of the main things that we're hoping for these conversations. We'd like current students to be able to access them, of course, but also connecting recent alumni with people that they might not otherwise meet, especially alumni. And I forgot, I'm sorry, Michelle, in the beginning of this to mention our next artist, who's Melanie Stevens, but Irene did a really good job of bringing that up mid-conversation. Melanie has been involved with PNCA in a bunch of different ways, but she graduated from the master's program in, I'm not sure which year, 2018, 2017, around the same time as us, Michelle. So obviously we will when we present her, we will have all that information. And do you have a date yet picked out for this, Michelle?
We don't. We're looking at late April, beginning of May.
Okay, so Melanie's work is amazing, and she is really a lovely person, and I'm really excited to hear what she's been up to, and to also hear her talk about her past work. When I was a student at PNCA, she had a piece that was one of the most amazing, moving things I've ever seen any artist do. And I hope she'll talk about that a little bit. If she doesn't, I'll be like there with my hand raised to ask her about it. And I'm sure that Irene will have some really great questions for her. And I'm so looking forward to that next talk. And I so appreciate it. I'm so happy to hear that the two of you, Steph and Irene, are like going to be buds now, because it just seemed like that was going to happen, but you never know, right? So yeah, that is all we have time for. Thank you so much, everybody, for showing up. And thank you so much for getting outside your comfort zone, Irene. But see, we're all so friendly, and it's such a cozy group. It wasn't that bad, was it?
No.
And I am, of course, snooping on everybody's Instagram and websites all the time. So I will be keeping up with your work, just like I do with all of my alums that I know about. And I'm also always learning more about new people. And if you have anybody to suggest, any of you, both Steph and Irene, but also anyone else, recent alumni that you'd like to hear in these talks, that would be great. Is there anything else, Lauren or Michelle, that you need to mention?
I just wanted to say thanks to Steph so much for showing up and bringing your heart and your intelligence and doing such a great job. Thank you.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I mean, Irene and I, like I said, fast friends. So it was just like another excuse to chat with Irene. I'm good.
No, I'm like, oh, I hope we can still talk.
Don't even worry. We'll schedule another one.
Yay!
Well, nice to meet you all. Thank you so much for
Thank you
spending this
so
hour
much.
with us.
It was really great. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And come to Tilla. We need to stop. Okay. Good.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.